What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Jake Paul defeats Nate Diaz, calls for MMA fight. On Saturday night, Nate Diaz and Jake Paul squared off in a highly anticipated showdown. The night saw plenty of big names in the MMA community make appearances, including Francis Ngannou, BJ Penn, Anthony Pettis, Rampage Jackson, and several members of the Diaz Scrap Pack. Early on in the fight, Paul used his range to take control, landing a big shot and swarming Diaz, who seemed to be in trouble. After recovering, Diaz then seemed to begin to find momentum in the second round, making things competitive on the inside. As the fight progressed, Paul scored a big knockdown, earning him big points in the judges' scorecards as the live odds began to sway heavily in his favor. Although Paul had predicted that he would finish Diaz in the fifth, the Stockton superstar managed to escape the round before then using his experience to swing momentum in his favor. Late in the fight, Paul seemed to be getting fatigued, with Diaz putting the pressure on the YouTuber throughout the 8th round. While the fight remained competitive through the later stages, it seems as though Diaz, with his signature style, left an impression on viewers and those in attendance as he poured on the pressure throughout the final round. When the two met in the center of the ring for the reading of the judges' scorecards, Paul's hand was raised, with the fight being scored a unanimous decision. After the fight, Paul spoke with Ariel Helwani inside the ring, offering Diaz an MMA fight under the PFL banner, honoring the previous offer he had made Diaz. When Diaz spoke, he accepted the offer to compete inside the cage before giving Paul his props. While there's been plenty of talk of Diaz returning to compete under the UFC banner, it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for the Stockton superstar. Much like when he first hit free agency, it seems as though Diaz has plenty of options in front of him. With that in mind, who do you want to see him fight next? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Corey Sandhagen defeats Rob Font in Nashville. In the main event of UFC Fight Night Nashville, Corey Sandhagen put on a dominant performance against Rob Font, showcasing an impressive evolution in his game as he utilized his grappling to secure a unanimous decision win. Although Font received plenty of respect from the fight community for stepping in on short notice, he had little defense when it came to the grappling onslaught of Sandhagen. For the Sandman, the win was arguably the most dominant of his career, making it 3 straight now. After the fight, he spoke to Michael Bisping inside the octagon to discuss his future plans. With the upcoming bantamweight title fight between Aljamain Sterling and Sugar Sean O'Malley rapidly approaching, the Sandman revealed that he plans to be cage-side in Boston. As Merab Dvalishvili and Henry Cejudo both continue to recover from surgery, it seems as though Sandhagen may wind up in a collision course with the winner of the UFC 292 headliner. Should Aljamain Sterling wind up defending the title and then vacating it in pursuit of the featherweight title, Sandhagen could find himself in position to compete for the vacant belt. On the flip side, for Rob Font, the loss now makes it 3 out of his last 5. After entering the fight as the number 7 ranked contender, he will now likely find himself forced to fight down in the rankings. With the bantamweight division being one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC, who do you want to see these two 135-pounders fight the next time they step inside the octagon? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Justin Gaethje finishes Conor McGregor in 2 minutes? A potential showdown between former 2-division champion Conor McGregor and newly minted BMF Justin Gaethje has continued to dominate headlines ever since Gaethje's spectacular head kick knockout win over Dustin Poirier at UFC 291. With Ali Abdelaziz predicting McGregor would need medical assistance after the beating Gaethje would put on him, and the Irish superstar vowing to knock Gaethje out, the fight community continues to weigh in on the bout, despite the former champ being ineligible to compete. During a recent video for his YouTube channel, Triple C, Henry Cejudo, spoke about the potential showdown between the two, while also suggesting that Gaethje pursues a high-paying fight with McGregor rather than looking to compete for the lightweight title.
Whether he's on steroids or not, it really doesn't matter, because either way you'll beat him. The man hasn't fought in so long. He's not going to be the same guy of him pumping up to 190 pounds, just trying to look big for the cameras. It's going to work in your favor. At 155 pounds, I can see you stopping Conor McGregor within the first 2 minutes.
With McGregor eyeing the BMF belt so he can put it on the line in a potential trilogy fight with Nate Diaz, it sounds as though there's a real possibility of the Irish superstar returning to the cage to compete against Justin Gaethje. Beneil Dariush undeterred after loss to Charles Oliveira. After Beneil Dariush's disappointing loss to Charles Oliveira, the top-ranked contender is eager to build himself back up and reinsert himself back in the lightweight title picture. Much like Charles Oliveira after his loss to Islam Makhachev, Dariush chalked his loss to Oliveira up to simply just having an off night. During a recent episode of UFC Unfiltered, he spoke about the loss. Much like he has in the past, Dariush plans to take some time before then returning to the octagon and bouncing back.
Yeah, it's not my first time losing, and it's not like my first time rebuilding back up, and I've done it before. I'm going to get that fixed. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to I'm going to show a better version for sure.
While there's been no word from the UFC on when Dariush will return to the octagon, he's also named Michael Chandler, Rafael Fiziev, and Arman Tsarukyan as opponents he would be interested in fighting. Although fans may be clamoring to see him compete against Dustin Poirier, given the placement of both men in the rankings, Dariush won't pursue the fight after Poirier previously said he wasn't interested in a potential bout. Should Conor McGregor wind up fighting Justin Gaethje when he returns to the octagon, it seems as though a fight between Chandler and Dariush would make the most sense for both men. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Joe Rogan reacts to Brendan Schaub UFC return. After Brendan Schaub was TKO'd by Travis Brown back at UFC 181, he broke down the loss on the Joe Rogan Experience. While Schaub thought that Mario Yamasaki should have let the fight go on, Joe Rogan explained that long before Brown began to rain down big shots on the ground, Schaub simply didn't seem like he had what it took to compete with the best of the best. Although Rogan praised Schaub as a great athlete, he concluded that the skill gap between Schaub and those who have trained in martial arts their entire lives simply was too great for him to overcome after getting into the sport late in life. At the time, many thought that Rogan had been too harsh on Schaub, while others praised him for his brutal honesty after an uninspiring performance. Now, amid talk of Schaub potentially returning to action under Jorge Masvidal's bare-knuckle MMA promotion, Joe Rogan shared his thoughts on the idea while speaking with Brian Callen on a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, Brendan does not need to get hit in the head anymore.
Hey, wrestle him!
I thought you were his friend.
Wrestle him!
But if you can.
He was throwing Derek Lewis out there with no gloves.
Good Lord.
But wait, hold on. Just hear me out.
Do you want to die?
Sir, hear me out.
What?
I'm just talking about just shoot a blast double.
Shut the
to the ground, and then we got that.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
I'm just talking.
Derek Lewis puts people in neighboring dimensions. He hits you so fucking hard, you just cease to exist in this plane.
So terrifying.
While there's been no further word on negotiations for the fight, we want to hear your predictions. Do you think Schaub will make a return to competition, or will he stick by his decision to call it a career? Drop your thoughts in the comments section down below. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have Sean Strickland revealing his next UFC fight. Earlier this week, we reported that the UFC was waiting on Sean Strickland to get his visa to confirm the Israel Adesanya fight. Well, it looks like Sean got his visa because earlier today, reports started to surface that Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland is confirmed for UFC 293 in Sydney. Fans are already going crazy. Here's what the MMA community thinks. That press conference is going to sound like a COD lobby. By end of year, we could have Strickland, Covington, and O'Malley as champions. Another boring calf-kicking fight for Adesanya. Who do you see winning this fight? Let us know down in the comment section below. Fighter forced out of the UFC. Ronnie Lawrence's string of bad luck has continued as of late, forcing the Dana White's Contender Series alum into a temporary retirement while he figures out his ongoing health problems. In a recent Instagram post, Lawrence explained to his fans that he would be stepping away from competition due to repeated staph infections that develop on his face along his jawline.
And what's happening to me is if I train hard, or if I train one a couple days, if I do a wrestling practice, if I spar, if I do anything that causes my heart rate to get a little too high for too long, I'm developing the cyst acne along only my jawline and my chin area. For the longest time I thought it was ingrown hairs, but the cyst acne that is developing on my face usually ends up turning into a staph infection. I've unfortunately had staph, without exaggerating, 15 to 20 times in the last 2.5 years.
Lawrence has had a rough go in the octagon as of late. After going 2-0 following his 2020 Dana White's Contender Series appearance, Lawrence dropped a decision to Said Yakub Kakhramonov, before then having a fight canceled at the end of the year. When he returned to the octagon in June, his fight with Daniel Argueta was ruled a no contest after referee Keith Peterson stopped the fight due to a submission, although Lawrence didn't actually tap. After a rough string of setbacks, hopefully Lawrence is able to return to the octagon sooner rather than later.